The Xindi admiral's severed head thudded on the obsidian floor of the Imperial court, trailing viscera. Commander Ryan Taylor stood over the twitching corpse, his pulse pistol still smoking in the dead silence. "Emperor Sirius!" Taylor's voice boomed across the cavernous chamber. "Earth will never submit to your decrees. We refuse to pay a single credit in tribute to your corrupt empire." The Emperor rose from his throne, scales rippling with rage, as he glared at the human upstart. "You dare?" "Dare?" Taylor cut off the spluttering monarch. "Your Majesty, you have no idea what humanity dares to do." He swept a contemptuous gaze over the assembled Xindi nobles. "We dare to defy you, to challenge your unjust rule, to build alliances with all free species, mock our human arrogance at your peril." As Taylor strode out, not a single guard moved to stop him, still in shocked disbelief at his brazen defiance. But the Emperor's eyes followed him, already plotting humanity's downfall. Galactic civilization waited with bated breath for the seemingly inevitable war. The Xindi Empire had crushed hundreds of species into submission. Surely it would make short work of the upstart humans. But mankind had a weapon the galaxy had never seen before. Not ships or guns or bombs, but an unbreakable will, an indomitable spirit that would never bend the knee. Where other species had submitted, humanity would fight to the bitter end for the freedom of all. The Empire wanted tribute. The only tribute it would receive from Earth was fire and blood. As the two sides hurtled towards a catastrophic showdown, one thing was certain. Win or lose, the human race would never go quietly. The Imperial court buzzed with urgent whispers as news of the fateful confrontation spread like wildfire. Courtiers and nobles clustered in anxious knots, debating the Emperor's response to this unprecedented challenge. In the heart of the palace, a different sort of council convened. Prince Zothor paced the marble floor, talons clicking. "We must crush the humans swiftly and decisively," he growled. "Make an example of them before other client species get rebellious ideas." Princess Vala lounged on a divan, idly examining her ornate claw sheaths. "Why waste ships and soldiers when we can bring them to heel through more elegant means? Let me lead a diplomatic mission to Earth. I'll have their leaders groveling before the throne without a drop of blood spilled." The Emperor rumbled his assent. "You have one cycle, daughter. Bend the humans to our will, or the task falls to your brother." Vala inclined her head in obedience, emerald eyes glinting. Light years away, a different strategist was at work. Ambassador Lena Sorensen reviewed intelligence reports, expression resolute in concentration. Earth had anticipated this move. They must be ready. "Summon the Security Council," Sorensen instructed her aide, "and get me President Xiang on a secure channel. We have work to do." Commander Ryan Taylor, meanwhile, oversaw a surge of activity at the orbital space docks as Earth's newly minted warships underwent final outfitting. Welding sparks glowed against the starry backdrop, while crewmen hustled to and fro. Taylor nodded in approval at the orderly commotion. The diplomatic corps would wage their battles around conference tables and in media headlines. His warriors were forging a different arsenal. On the bluffs overlooking the space docks, journalist Ethan Riley raised his camera to frame a gleaming cruiser, its fresh-painted hull resplendent in blues and golds. "There she is," he murmured to his holodrone. "The UES Horatius. Isn't she a beauty? Yeah, you and me are going to be spending some quality time together, girl, getting the real story." And in 1,000 shadowed halls on 100 worlds, rebel leaders and resistance fighters read subversive crumbs of data from concealed holoprojectors. The fight of their lives was coming. At long last, a spark had been struck to illuminate the galactic night. Words rippled across the holoscreens, phrases that would echo down the ages. "Earth defies empire. Humanity will not kneel. The reckoning begins." The failed assassination of Prime Minister Garcia sent shockwaves rippling across Earth and beyond. In the halls of power, military command centers, and seedy spaceport bars alike, only one question burned on every tongue. How would humanity strike back against this blatant imperial aggression? Commander Ryan Taylor slammed a fist on the briefing room table, fist tight. "This insult cannot stand." His eyes flashed to Ambassador Sorensen. We need to hit them back hard, right at the heart of their power. Sorensen nodded, an icy calm settling over her features. I concur, and I believe I know how. She tapped a series of commands into the holodisplay, bringing up a ghostly wireframe of an ornate palace complex. Zindus Prime, the Imperial capital world. We infiltrate, penetrate their data vaults, and extract intelligence to blow the lid off their tyrannical regime. Taylor grinned wolfishly. I like it. Risky as hell, but that's never stopped us before. He crossed his arms, studying the holo image. I'll assemble a team, small and fast, in and out before they even know what stung them. As Taylor and Sorensen laid their audacious plans, Ethan Riley prowled the shadows of Earth's global data nets, chasing whispers of the impending op. The journalist's implants pulsed with a flood of incoming chatter from his web of underworld contacts. And then pay dirt, a time, a place, a list of names. Riley's eyes widened. This was big, bigger than big. His fingers flew over his battered keyboard, coalescing whispers into a cohesive story, one that could shake the foundations of galactic order. But he wasn't the only one sniffing out this trail. Imperial data hounds picked up the scent, black-clad agents converging on Riley's hideout. He barely escaped the ambush, the acrid stench of fused polymers and charred circuitry still scorching his nostrils as he fled into the neon-swathed night. In the luxuriant solitude of her private chambers on the Eldari homeworld, Princess Zara analyzed Riley's intercepted reports with a critical eye. These humans. Such fire, such unbreakable defiance in the face of Imperial dominion. Perhaps at long last her people had found a species that could light the spark of revolution. Zara's elegant fingers danced across the holocom panel, encoding a message into a scrambled sub-channel carrier wave. Ambassador Sorensen, I have information that may aid your noble cause. On Zindus Prime, the newly arrived human infiltration team fanned out into the pulsing crowds of the Imperial capital, their genetically sculpted features blending seamlessly with the myriad xeno-races thronging the streets. Lieutenant Kai Nakamura, the team's cyber warfare prodigy, marveled at the sheer alienness pressing in from all sides. God, he'd never felt more human than in this moment, surrounded by 10,000 varieties of slitted eyes and scaly hides. Shaking off his momentary daze, Nakamura focused on the mission. His team slipped through the outer perimeter of Imperial security like ghosts, false credentials and hacked surveillance feeds paving their path. Into the great palace they crept, a den of opulence and decadence that set Nakamura's stomach churning. With preternatural skill, the lieutenant wove his way into the Imperial data vaults, splicing his cranial uplink into the pulsing arteries of corrupted information. Misappropriated funds, massacred rebellions, orgies of vice and cruelty at the highest Imperial echelons. A deluge of shameful secrets poured into Nakamura's memory banks. Enough to shatter the Empire's grip on 1,000 worlds, if they could only escape with this precious cash. But as the exfil alarm pulsed, disaster struck. A muffled scream, a spray of blood in the darkness, and suddenly Imperial guardsmen boiled into the vault antechamber, plasma rifles spitting lethally accurate blasts. Nakamura's team died messily, ruptured bodies strewn across the polished obsidian floor. Only Nakamura escaped the carnage, a stolen Imperial uniform his camouflage, his bleeding bodyguard the unwitting key to his infiltration of the guardsmen's ranks. Out into the teeming streets he staggered, alone and hunted in this alien nightmare. The lieutenant tapped his subdermal comm implant with a shaking finger, his voice a hoarse rasp over the quantum encryption channel. X-ray actual. This is Ronan. Team is down. I repeat, team is down. Package is secured. Requesting emergency extraction. It's all on me now. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Taylor's fingers tightened around the comm station railing as Nakamura's status report filtered through bursts of static. The Empire would be out for blood now. Their response would be swift and brutal. The commander turned to his executive officer, expression grim. Fleet-wide broadcast. All channels. He drew in a steadying breath. This is Commander Ryan Taylor to all Earth Defense Force units. Action stations. I repeat, action stations. We are now at war. The galactic infosphere erupted with chaos as Ethan Riley's expose hit the networks. Intercepted communiques scrolled across billions of screens, Emperor Sirius's seal glowing accusingly at the bottom of each damning decree. In the UES Horatius's war room, Commander Taylor watched the fallout spread across real-time holomaps. "Look at that," he murmured, gesturing to clusters of red indicators flaring to life. The Eldari Protectorate, Corvin Hegemony, they're all lighting up with civil unrest. Ambassador Sorensen's eyes narrowed as she studied the shifting patterns. "We've cracked their facade. Now we push." On Zindus Prime, Emperor Sirius raged, hurling a priceless artifact across his private chambers. "Lies! Human fabrications!" he snarled. Prince Zothor's scales rippled uneasily. "Father, our own records confirm—" "Silence!" The Emperor's tail lashed, toppling an ornate vase. "Mobilize the fleet. We'll crush these upstarts and make an example of their worlds." Admiral Cortaz's voice crackled over the comm. "Your Majesty, my armada stands ready. We await only your word to begin the assault on human colonies." Back on Earth, the Security Council chamber thrummed with urgent debate. Defense Minister Chen hit his fist on the table. "We must strike first. Hit them before they can mass their full strength against us." Sorensen's cool voice cut through the rising clamor. "And trigger a war that will devastate half the galaxy? No, there's another way." She tapped her data pad, bringing up a star chart. "I've been in contact with representatives from multiple Imperial vassal worlds. If we can bring them to the table—" President Xiang leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on, Ambassador." Hours later, encrypted messages flashed across subspace. The Corvin Hegemon, elder councils of the Eldari, even some mid-level Xindi bureaucrats, all received carefully worded invitations. On a nondescript world in neutral space, ships began to arrive. Sorensen stood at the spaceport, flanked by a mixed delegation of humans and allied Xenos. A sleek Xindi cruiser settled onto the landing pad, disgorging a cluster of scaled diplomats. "Welcome to Outpost Sigma," Sorensen said, inclining her head. "We have much to discuss." Inside the hastily prepared conference chamber, tensions crackled. Xindi emissaries glowered at the assembled races. Sorensen took a deep breath and stepped to the podium. "Esteemed delegates," she began, her voice steady, "we stand at a crossroads. The actions we take here will shape the future of our galaxy for generations to come." As Sorensen's words echoed across the chamber, on the bridge of the UES Horatius, Commander Taylor watched long-range sensors with growing unease. Xindi warships were massing at the edge of monitored space, a steel fist poised to strike. He opened a secure channel. "Sorensen, whatever you're doing down there, you'd better do it fast." "Fast?" Taylor muttered. "Sorensen, you've got minutes, not hours." The conference chamber fell silent as Ambassador Sorensen concluded her opening remarks. She surveyed the assembled delegates, noting the mix of skepticism, hope, and outright hostility etched on alien faces. "The evidence we've presented is irrefutable," she said, gesturing to the holographic displays. "Emperor Sirius's regime has systematically oppressed your worlds, bleeding you dry while amassing obscene wealth. Together we can forge a new path." A Corvin representative's scales rippled. "Pretty words, human. But what guarantee do we have that you won't simply replace Xindi dominion with your own?" Sorensen's lips tightened. "Because we know the cost of tyranny. Earth's history is rife with oppression and the struggle for freedom. We have no desire to become that which we've fought so hard against." As the debate raged, Lieutenant Nakamura crouched in a maintenance tunnel deep within the Imperial Palace on Zindus Prime. His stolen uniform was stained with blood, some his own, some not. The data stick containing the Empire's darkest secrets felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. A muffled voice came through his subdermal comm. "Ronan, this is Nighthawk. We have a narrow window. Move now." Nakamura took a steadying breath and emerged into a bustling corridor. He forced himself to walk calmly, mimicking the crisp stride of Imperial guardsmen. Just a few more levels to the extraction point. An alarm klaxon shattered the air. Nakamura's heart leapt into his throat as armored figures poured into the hallway. He sprinted, plasma bolts searing the air around him. "Primary route compromised," he hissed into his comm, initiating Protocol Omega. On the bridge of the UES Horatius, Commander Taylor watched long-range sensors with growing alarm. The Cindy fleet was shifting formation, adopting an attack posture. "Get me Sorensen," he barked. "Tell her time's up." But before the transmission could go through, a priority alert flashed across the main view screen. Taylor's eyes widened as he read the incoming message. "Mother of God," he breathed. "Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations." In the conference chamber, Sorensen's datapad chirped insistently. She glanced down, her face draining of color, as she read Taylor's urgent communique. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins, "I'm afraid our time has been cut short. We have reports of significant Xindi fleet movement. If we're to avoid all-out war, we must reach an accord now." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of shouts and demands. Sorensen raised her hands, struggling to maintain order. "Please, we can still prevent catastrophe, but only if we stand united." As the galactic powers teetered on the brink of conflict, Ethan Riley huddled in a dingy spaceport bar on the fringes of Xindi space. His implants hummed with an overload of incoming data, fleet movements, troop deployments, panicked transmissions from a dozen worlds. He downed the last of his synthetic whiskey, grimacing at the acrid taste. Time to get to work. The galaxy needed to know what was coming. Riley's fingers flew over his battered datapad, weaving the fragments of intel into a coherent narrative. The story taking shape under his hands would shake the foundations of galactic society. A shadow fell across his table. Riley looked up to see a hooded figure slide into the booth across from him. "Mr. Riley," a silky voice purred, "I believe I have some information that will interest you greatly." The journalist's eyes narrowed as the figure pushed back her hood, revealing the emerald eyes and scaled skin of an imperial noble. "Princess Vala," Riley breathed, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" The Xindi princess's lips curled in a predatory smile. "Let's just say the winds of change are blowing, Mr. Riley, and I intend to be on the right side of the storm."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.